All right. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, and hello. I guess we'll have to call this episode just plain bamboozled because that's how I feel as an American. That my country, my citizens of my country are bamboozled for the most part, or we have been historically. Although it does seem like a lot of people are waking up right now. So follow to the end because we do end up with a message of unity and hope and kindness and love, but we do have to go down some dark roads to get there first. I want to begin by saying that Judaism is not Zionism. Judaism is a religion of monotheism that follows the Torah, and Zionism is a political philosophy, really, right? Although it's not a very nice philosophy, it's still a philosophy. So let's not attack Jews over what Israel is doing. In the United States, I know that the American Jews are on the front lines of the protests because and they should be. They're the most upset that Zionism are masquerading as Jews to make their point, right? To prove that, to say that they're Jews and that this is what Judaism is, and conflating Zionism and Judaism as the same thing, which it is not. For me, I understand that it's like saying ISIS is Muslims, and ISIS acts the opposite of Islam. ISIS did what Islam said to not do, absolutely did not follow the rules of Islam, and so that is basically kind of how I'm seeing Zionism and Judaism, and I assume that would be the way that the Torah Jews, the Torah following Jews, would see it also. But first, let's talk about what is Zionism? It is a philosophy. It's a political philosophy of a Jewish homeland, right? I mean, and that idea by itself, this seems to be fine, right? People don't care if Jews have a homeland. Nobody does. But that's not what it really is. That's like their cover story. Because really, it's a philosophy of hate and bigotry. And, a lot of it, is the way that Israel is doing it, is white supremacy. And it opposes Judaism while masquerading as Judaism.
A democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East, in the exact same way that America is the oldest democracy in the world. I can remember walking down streets with a Palestinian guide, and we would get to certain streets, and he would say, I can't walk down this street with you. You can walk, I cannot, because I'm Palestinian. And I thought, I know what that is. As we drove through the occupied territories, and I would look out and I would see roads that Palestinians could use and roads that only Israeli Jews could use. I said, I know what this is. As I saw different colored license plates for different classes of people, I said, I know what this is. As I saw communities that I can only describe as segregated. And what I felt was a tremendous weight. I felt the obvious thing that I think all of us feel, that our tax dollars are effectively subsidizing apartheid, or subsidizing a segregationist order, a Jim Crow regime. But I also felt that as an African American who was reared on the fight against Jim Crow, against white supremacy, against apartheid, I felt tremendous shame. How could I not know? How could I not know that the only democracy in the Middle East as it builds itself is segregated?
Zionists attack Torah Jews and Christians also in Israel. Let's hear from Rabbi Weiss and some other Torah-following Jews and see what they have to say about this.
The help of the Almighty that He should bestow upon me is truth and wisdom, that we may convey the message of the Almighty and of the Jewish people. Our message is quite simple. We are a religion called Judaism that we've been practicing for 3,000 years. It is to be subservient to God and uphold His covenant, the Torah. But unfortunately, a little over 100 years ago, a movement called Zionism has really hijacked our religion for a base material nationalism, mostly by non-religious Jews. And very clearly, the chief rabbis of Palestine in 1947, prior to its ratification by the United Nations, these are United Nations documents, there was a meeting in the United Nations in the delegation in Jerusalem, in Al-Quds, where the chief rabbi claimed and stated, we furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. This was Rabbi Dushinsky, Declaration before the United Nations, July 16th, 1947. This is the view of the religious people true to our religion. We are to serve God, not to occupy or steal or kill or oppress. In fact, since the destruction of the two temples, we are not even allowed to have Jewish sovereignty return and make our own country. So, and this was respected for 2,000 years. We were on the Ottoman Empire.
Right.
Yes.
Rabbi, if I can interject for a moment, the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo equated anti-Zionism today with anti-Semitism. I want to get your reaction on that comparison.
That is part of this Nakba, the tragedy, because never the twain shall meet. Anti-Zionism is a righteous issue. It is to stand up for a criminal offense, a horrendous offense of occupying people, not only the Palestinian people, but I want you to know that the Jewish people in Palestine are being brutally beaten daily because they demonstrate peacefully. We don't have guns. They're beaten with horses. Their children, women are arrested because they refuse to go to the army. There's nothing more scandalous than this, because we are a conscientious objectors. Imagine that in the state they call themselves a Jewish state, yet they refuse to recognize the rights of the Jewish people to observe our Torah. And we cry with the Palestinian people, and the world is being duped, and they're being cowered into believing that if they don't support the Zionist state, they're anti-Semitic, while in truth, the state of Israel is exacerbating anti-Semitism. History is, in the Ottoman Empire, history is proof how Jews coexisted in harmony, even though we have a different religion than the Muslim people, but that was never an impediment to coexistence. The impediment is the creation of a flawed, selfish occupationist state that's masquerading in my religion. And the Zionists, who mostly don't look religious, look at Netanyahu, they don't suffer when they go around the world. The Jewish people who look like Jews, who are true to our religion, are hated and detested because of what the actions of the Zionists that is against God. We plead with the world, do not be intimidated, speak up and hear the voices of the Jewish communities in Jerusalem, the hundreds of thousands of Jews who are living there, who are gathering there, and around the world, whether it is in England, whether it is in Canada, wherever there is a very religious community, they are anti-Zionist, and they are pleading with the world, respect us, respect that we can uphold our religion. My grandparents died in Auschwitz. We suffered because we were Jewish.
Rabbi,
and now
yes,
Zionism is only
unfortunately,
creating
we
more
have
bloodshed.
to leave it there.
Yes.
Appreciate you being with us, Rabbi. Thank you.
Brings you here today to support Palestinian rights. We as Jews are embarrassed what's happening there in the state of Israel in the Jewish name. And what's your message to the people of Palestine? They shouldn't give up the struggle. They should continue to fight and not give up the struggle against the state of Israel, because by the end, Palestine will be free, because this is truth. Will succeed by the end. What's your message to the people of Palestine?
They should know. We feel very shame what's going on there, especially they're doing everything in our name, in the name of Jews, in the name of the Torah, in the name of God. It's so shameful. We are with you. You have to know. The Zionists are strong. We are weak. But God is on our side. At the end of the day, the Palestinian flag will be on all Palestine, from the river to the sea.
State of Israel is not a Jewish state. They don't represent Jews or Judaism. So when they hear the truth, they're getting very angry. Sometimes they scream on us. And sometimes even they attack us physically, because they are not believers in the Torah and Judaism. So they don't have any
problem with all these crimes against the Palestinians, and even they don't have any problem with crimes against the real Jews. But we are not afraid to come out with the truth. We are ready to suffer from the Zionists, to say the truth for the entire world. And we wanna live in peace with the Palestinian neighbors in worldwide, in Brooklyn, New York, in Jerusalem, everywhere. Real Jews, anti-Zionist Jews, they want to live in peace with the neighbors, like we live for hundreds of years.
You're Zionist. Zionist is against God, and you want to destroy God in Hashem. Go away. Go away. You're not Jewish. Zionists are not Jewish. Torah not belongs to you. Not belongs to you. Jewish. You're Zionist. Zionist.
Now, myself, I had always believed the news that I saw growing up, that Israel wanted peace and that Palestinians were the terrorists.
It's going to have to do with both sides, but a lot will have to do with Israel and whether or not Israel wants to make the deal. As far as settlements, I'd like to see you hold back on settlements for a little bit. We'll work something out, but I would like to see a deal be made. It might be a bigger and better deal than people in this room even understand. That's a possibility. So let's see what we do. Start. Doesn't sound too optimistic, but that's... I was disappointed in Bibi, just on a personal basis. I thought he wanted to make a deal more than Netanyahu. And I will be honest, I had a great meeting with him, Abbas, right? I had a great meeting with him. And we spent a lot of time together, talked about many things. And it was almost like a father. I mean, he was so nice. Couldn't have been nicer. And after meeting with Bibi for 3 minutes, I looked at him and said, "You don't want to make a deal, do you?" And he said, "Well, and the fact is, I don't think Bibi ever wanted to make a deal. Why? I thought the Palestinians were impossible, and the Israelis would do anything to make peace and a deal. I found that not to be true." Let's go. Look, it's good.
Okay, I'd always believed the news I saw growing up, that Israel wanted peace and the Palestinians were the terrorists. And, I had no idea how it started because I was young. It was only after I became Muslim that I noticed that Israel would do attacking in Ramadan, I noticed, unprovoked. It was like if it was Ramadan, I knew Gaza was going to get bombed. And they weren't doing anything. So no matter who or what Israel is saying, that they're the people of peace, that's basically a lie, right? Whatever they say is basically the opposite. And we have, at least the Western people especially, we've been hypnotized, we've been mesmerized, brainwashed, and bamboozled, right? We've been fooled. And how have we been fooled? We've been fooled because of controlling the narrative. The same way that my government pushes all of these wars that they lie about, like weapons of mass destruction. And, America is very guilty of war crimes and genocidal killing of people, which, genocide means you're trying to destroy a race. And maybe they weren't trying to destroy a race, but they were definitely ethnically cleansing and killing, being responsible for the deaths of millions of people. It's genocide any way you want to look at it, really. And it's all propaganda, right? And it's not like we weren't warned. Malcolm X told us that the newspapers will have us cheering for our oppressors and being against those that are being oppressed. And, looks like that's what's happened. A lot of the stuff that man said was actually correct. And we should go back and re-look at that if we haven't, right? If you don't know who Malcolm X is, I highly suggest you go read his autobiography. Now let's look at who runs the mainstream media. And I'm going to say that, although it's not called that in this particular photo, red generally means these guys must be supporting Zionism based on the way that we've seen all the news support the narrative, support the propaganda, where the first question out of everybody's mouth is, do you condemn Hamas, right? And without any look at how did we get to this situation. And so we'll dig into that a little bit later. So let's just focus on right now about what Zionism is. Let's look at a little bit of what we know about the Zionist history.
What? This Israel thing, like, it scares the shit out of me. Yeah, it scares the shit out of me. Because when I see something like that happen, you know, there's no clear way this resolves peacefully. Like, this is bad. This is real bad. And Israel's gonna go into Palestine. They're already bombing and so their world is killing people. Their world is controlling resources, and it's not, they don't play fair. Like, they release stories that aren't true. They use disinformation to switch narratives. They have social media posts that aren't real so they can get people riled up about certain things. And then they're also coordinating military attacks. That's their world. We just don't think about that world because we're not in that world. But people have been in that world since the beginning of time. What they've done with us is they've sheltered us in such a way, and then censored all the mainstream media in such a way that they completely controlled the narrative of how you think about what can and cannot happen in the world and why these things are happening. And we're seeing that right now. We're seeing that, like, in your face, where you're like, what?
A good rule of thumb, if Israel is accusing somebody of something, that's because Israel is actually doing it, right? It's like, if you have liars will accuse other people of lying because from their point of view, lying is normal and they think everybody's doing it. And that's kind of Israel. That's basically what, you know, the Israeli government does. They accuse people of human shields, killing babies, rape, genocide, etc., because that's really what they are doing. So if they're accusing somebody of it, it's a safe bet they're the ones guilty of it. Let's talk about ethnic cleansing and murder, because this is what Israel was founded on. Ben-Gurion, who became the first prime minister, basically ethnically cleansed 750, 750,000 people in the 1948 catastrophe called the Nakba. They had another guy, another prime minister named Levi Eshkol, who presided over the ethnic cleansing of another 250,000 people. So that's 1,000,000 people that have been murdered or removed from their actual property, right? Ethnically cleansed the land. Menachem Begin was a well-known terrorist in the Mideast before becoming prime minister, especially pre-1948. He was the premier terrorist in the Middle East, and he became the prime minister of Israel. So that kind of tells you, you know, where their priorities lie. He killed Arabs, he killed Jews, he killed English people, he bombed hotels. He's the one that got the Brits to leave Palestine from the amount of terrorism that he was committing. Netanyahu, technically, you know, before October 6th, before October 7th, he was in 5th place as far as ethnic cleansing by prime ministers. But after, you know, what's gone on in Gaza now, he definitely moves in because we've got 2 million people there that they are trying to ethnically cleanse off of that land. They're trying to recapture that land. That's their purpose. That's why they tell us what they're trying to do and tell us that, you know, the other Arab countries need to take these people in. But, you know, people aren't falling for it. And the Gazans don't want to leave. I mean, maybe, I'm sure a lot of them do, but Netanyahu was in 5th place. But now he's moving into 1st place because of the volume of people he is ethnically cleansing in Gaza, if he's successful. Israel and false flag operations. Because this history here will tell us a lot about who they are as a country and who they have as leaders. So let's check out the Liberty and there's some dancing Israelis.
Will balk when you explain to them that Israel was involved in 9/11 and you talk about this. They'll say, "Oh no, Israel wouldn't do that." You know, there's many Christian Zionists in this country who say, "No, no, no, Israel's our strategic ally." I would just point out they should read some history. In 1967, in the Six-Day War, on June 8th, Israeli military, Air Force, and Navy viciously attacked a ship called the USS Liberty, which was an unarmed American spy ship under the NSA off the coast of Egypt in international waters. And it was flying an oversized American flag, and the Israeli pilots were flying over the ship. They'd been buzzing over it all morning long before the attack began. And then the attack began. They hit it with a torpedo in the middle, killing 34 Americans. Then they bombed it, dropped napalm. And there was recently, or a couple years ago, the transcripts came out between the pilots and ground control. And the pilots' ground control in Tel Aviv said, "Identify the plane, identify the ship." And the planes called back and said, "It's American, it's American." And then the command came from Tel Aviv, "Sink the ship, no survivors." So they intended to put this ship on the bottom of the ocean, but it was one of those old World War II Liberty hull ships, which have good compartments underneath, and it didn't go down. The torpedo went right in the middle of the ship and killed all of the guys down below with the headphones on that were interpreting what the signal's intelligence. Killed all of them, but the ship didn't sink. But when the Americans tried to put life rafts into the water, the Israeli gunboats were machine gunning the life rafts. They had no intention. They intended the ship to go down the bottom, and had it gone to the bottom, it would have been blamed on Egypt. And this would have brought us very close to a nuclear war. But that's another story. This was Lyndon Johnson was in the White House, and he was very, very pro-Israel. And so twice, American planes were launched from aircraft carriers off the coast of Greece to rescue the ship. And twice, McNamara and Johnson called the planes back. He said, I will not embarrass an ally. So 171 Americans were brutally wounded on the ship and 34 killed. And that little piece of history is not generally well known in America because it's not taught. It's simply suppressed.
It was widely reported that men had been celebrating the attack after recording the first plane strike. They were not Al-Qaeda, but they were detained.
I grabbed my binoculars and I could see the towers from my window. And this is where I'm looking. And all of a sudden, down there, I see this van park. And I see 3 guys on top of the van. And I could see that they were like happy. They didn't look shocked to me. They didn't look shocked.
There was a group of Israelis, some of whom later were revealed as Mossad assets, who were arrested after cheering and high-fiving and videotaping the crash of the airplanes into the World Trade Towers.
Several other men were detained after a van full of explosives was stopped outside of Manhattan.
Earlier, we had heard that an FBI spokesperson said that there was a report on the George Washington Bridge, which is another facility which you folks are responsible for policing, a report that there had been a van stopped there that had explosives.
Asked this week about another sprawling investigation and the detention of 60 Israelis since September 11th, the Bush administration treated the questions like hot potatoes.
I would just refer you to the Department of Justice with it. I'm not familiar with the report.
I'm aware that some Israeli citizens have been detained. With respect to why they are being detained and the other aspects of your question, whether it's because they're in intelligence services or what they were doing, I will defer to the Department of Justice and the FBI to answer that.
On March 6, 2002, a draft report from the DEA said it may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. Despite all of this, all the Israelis were let go without any espionage charges being filed. Fox News anchors Britt Hume and Carl Cameron would do a 4-part investigation into these allegations in December of 2001 and yield stunning results.
It has been more than 16 years since a civilian working for the Navy was charged with passing secrets to Israel. Jonathan Pollard pled guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage and is serving a life sentence. At first, Israeli leaders claimed Pollard was part of a rogue operation, but later took responsibility for his work. Now, Fox News has learned some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S.
Since September 11th, more than 60 Israelis have been arrested or detained, either under the new Patriot anti-terrorism law or for immigration violations. A handful of active Israeli military were among those detained, according to investigators, who say some of the detainees also failed polygraph questions when asked about alleged surveillance activities against and in the United States. Investigators suspect that the Israelis may have gathered intelligence about the attacks in advance and not shared it. A highly placed investigator said there are, quote, tie-ins, but when asked for details, he flatly refused to describe them, saying, quote, evidence linking these Israelis to 911 is classified. I cannot tell you about evidence that has been gathered. It's classified information.
Now, when the FBI investigated, it quickly unraveled to be the largest foreign spy ring ever uncovered inside the United States, the largest. Even the Soviet Union had not been spying on the United States as much as Israel has been doing. So the FBI started to round up these spies. They started to arrest them very quietly, and they were about halfway through this process of rounding up this spy ring when 9/11 happened.
Numerous classified documents obtained by Fox News indicate that even prior to September 11th, as many as 140 other Israelis had been detained or arrested in a secretive and sprawling investigation into suspected espionage by Israelis in the United States. Investigators from numerous government agencies are part of a working group that's been compiling evidence since the mid-90s. These documents detail hundreds of incidents in cities and towns across the country that investigators say, quote, may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. The first part of the investigation focuses on Israelis who say they are art students from the University of Jerusalem and Bezalel Academy. Documents say they, quote, targeted and penetrated military bases, the DEA, FBI, and dozens of other government facilities, and even secret offices and unlisted private homes of law enforcement and intelligence personnel. The majority of those questioned, quote, stated they served in military intelligence, electronic surveillance intercept, and or explosive ordnance units. Why would Israelis spy in and on the U.S.? A General Accounting Office investigation referred to Israel as Country A and said, quote, according to a U.S. intelligence agency, the government of Country A conducts the most aggressive espionage operation against the U.S. of any U.S. ally. The document concludes, quote, Israel possesses the resources and technical capability to achieve its collection objectives.
What about this question of advanced knowledge of what was going to happen on 9/11? How clear are investigators that some Israeli agents may have known something?
Well, it's very explosive information, obviously, and there's a great deal of evidence that they say they have collected. None of it necessarily conclusive. It's more when they put it all together. A bigger question, they say, is how could they not have known? Almost a direct quote. Brett.
It is now apparent that this intelligence ring was inside the U.S., had prior knowledge of 9/11, and had a classified role in 9/11, which officials refused to discuss. It was also able to penetrate U.S. intelligence agencies and secret offices, yet all were released. The men who were detained due to the report they were taping the first plane crash and then celebrating and joking about it actually went on television and admitted it was their job to record the attack.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is, we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event.
How could they have known about the attack? And who sent them to document it? The evidence points to a large intelligence network inside the United States that had teams on the ground, such as the ones recording the attack, and electronic surveillance teams gathering information.
Zionist history is false flags and terrorism. There are no rules. They don't care about anything except results and their results. Zionism lives on bigotry, hatred, and white supremacy. If Zionism is a religion, then it can only be the religion of Satan, making Zionists the chosen people of Satan. You can tell what a tree is, what the tree of Zionism is, by its fruit, and which seems to be at least some are bitter, hateful, gleefully genocidal, which some that at least seems which seems that at least some are gleefully genocidal, bitter, hateful people.
Can you leave, please? Go, please.
You're not working.
I'm just working here. Yeah, go.
There's nobody here. And we're going to put big signs here that say this guy believes in Hamas.
I'm born here.
But you're a terrorist. You support terrorism.
Listen, go. I'm not support something.
You do. You support terrorism.
I'm not some. Go. I'm just working here.
Children. You're a terrible person.
You kill children, not me.
What?
Go.
My kids? What about my kids?
You kill children, not me. Go.
I didn't kill children.
Okay, what's he here?
You know why? If we killed 4,000 Palestinian kids, you know what? It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
Go.
To my friends in immigration.
Really? Okay, go, yeah.
And to the Egyptian, the Mukhabarat wants your picture.
Okay, yalla, go. Yeah, go, yalla.
Mukhabarat in Egypt will get your parents.
Go.
Does your father like his fingernails? They'll take them out one by one.
Yalla, روح من هنا. Yalla, go.
Why should I go? Why should I go? Tell me why I should go. I'm standing here. I'm an American. I have free. It's a free country. It's not like Egypt. Smile for me.
I guess we have to call this episode just plain bamboozled, because that's what we are. We've been fooled, right? We've been fed a bunch of propaganda and we ate it up. Please follow this message to the end, because we do end up with a message of hope and unity and kindness is where we need to be to go forward as a world, quite frankly. Let me start, though, with saying that Judaism is not Zionism, that not every Israeli is a Zionist. There are many Jews, many Torah Jews and Christians that are being attacked in Israel by the Zionist forces there. The Zionists attacked the Jews and the Christians in Israel, not just the Muslims. And in Gaza, this is Christians, there are churches that have been bombed, and Christians have been murdered also, not just Muslims. It's a ethnic cleansing. It's Zionists wanting to get rid of Arabs, and they don't really care about the religion. The religion doesn't matter to them. They just want the property, so they're going to ethnically cleanse it from the Arabs. And that's why they talk about Arabs in such genocidal terms, such as, human animals. If Zionism is a religion, then it can only be the religion of Satan, making Zionists the chosen people of Satan. You can tell the tree by its fruit, and you can tell the tree of Zionism by its fruit, which seems that at least some are bitter, hateful, gleefully genocidal people. Okay, so let's take a little break, and then we will get into October 7th, and October 7th until today.